President Obama acts in defiance of the people and imposes his will on the country, Congress will act. We're considering a variety of options. But make no mistake, when the newly elected representatives of the people take their seats, they will act.
The president's plan hasn't been announced yet, but the fight is already brewing. Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Kleffler in New York. That, of course, was Senator and soon-to-be Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on President Obama's expected announcement to use executive action to give nearly 5 million immigrants legal status in the United States. But what does it all mean when the president's plan is put in place? So with more on how it will all work, I want to bring in our political director, Rick Klein from Washington, D.C. And Rick, I want to start from the top. What is the first thing that happens after the president makes that speech tonight?
Dan, things start moving on two tracks. One is on the executive level. An executive order has the force of law. Even though it's not approved by Congress, it will be distributed to Congress. There will be an official notification when the president makes that executive order signing, most likely tomorrow at an event in Las Vegas. And then there's another track, and that's the congressional reaction track. That's where you hear it from Senator McConnell about the whole range of options that are being considered. Everything from a vote of disapproval to a vote to defund enforcement to a vote to repeal this to even people talking now about potentially trying to impeach the president. That's just fringe talk for now. It's not going to happen. But there's going to be a massive effort to try to undo this, even as the executive branch begins to whirl into life with all the agencies beginning to enact an extremely complicated set of directives.
That's the reaction immediately after the president makes that speech tonight. The 5 million, how did that number even come about?
A lot of debate about how big this number would be. There's an estimated 11 or 12 million undocumented immigrants in this country. Less than half of them would be potentially impacted by this. There's two big buckets to think about here. One is existing programs. Right now, there are high-tech visas that are available to workers. There's also the so-called DREAM Act that's available to people who were brought here as youngsters before they were of age and had no control over the fact that they were brought here. The president has already granted them some kind of a form of legalized status. That will be extended to more people. There's about 1 million people as part of that. The much bigger deal is about 4 million people who've been here, came as undocumented immigrants and came here willfully as undocumented immigrants, but they've been here for 5 years or more. They have not had any criminal troubles. Those folks will be, for the first time, able to make themselves known to the federal government and apply for some kind of a work permit under a brand new program. So that's how you get to 5 million. You have a whole bunch of existing programs that are expanded and this new big movement where the president's going to say, we are not going to be enforcing immigration laws essentially against people who've been here for more than 5 years.
Right. Well, so now onto the timetable. The speech is made. The details of the announcement are out there. Soon in January, new Congress is sworn in. How does then this go into effect 6 months from now?
Well, 6 months is when most of these programs actually go into effect. And this is going to be complicated. We see how the federal government reacts to things, and there's no template for this. No one knows exactly how it will work. It extends across agencies, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, the Labor Department, maybe even the Secretary of State's office. They're all going to have some piece of this pie, and they're going to have to, in the next couple of months, figure out a process for undocumented immigrants, people who were not in this country on a legal basis, did not come here legally, to raise their hands, volunteer that information to the federal government, provide the documentation of what they have, begin to even physically fill out the forms that don't exist yet to allow for this kind of work status and then potentially be employed in the workforce. And it's all complicated by a bunch of factors. One is you're going to have this churning on Capitol Hill and among Republicans trying to stop funding for this to go forward, to try to stop this from going into effect at all, to have court challenges. It could end up before the Supreme Court, and there's going to be promises on the 2016 campaign trail to undo all of this. So you have this whole universe of people who are not going to have any kind of a finalized status even with the president's action.
5 million, that is the target by the administration. But what if, in fact, no one comes forward once this is announced?
I don't think it'll be no one, but I don't know that it'll be 5 million either. That's the number the advocacy groups put here, but there's going to be a good number of folks who say, you know what? I've been getting along just fine without telling the federal government about me. And I'm glad that the president's doing this, I'm sure, but there's no guarantee that the next president, particularly if it's a Republican president, will allow it to happen. So you're asking people who have used to living in sort of the shadows of American society to come forward, put their name on a list, and say affirmatively to the federal government, yes, I came here illegally. That is going to sound like a deportation list to a large number of people. It comes up every 10 years with the Census Bureau. Census workers say, please, we'll count you. We won't tell anyone about you. And millions of undocumented immigrants say, we're not going to fall for that. So I think it's going to be a challenge to get these people to actually come out of the shadows and take advantage of the program. I think of course, there'll be some people who do it. They see some benefit in doing it. But it is going to be a real question as to how many people at the end of the day this actually helps.
A historic announcement, and of course we all will be watching. Our political director, Rick Klein in Washington, D.C. Rick, thanks so much for your time and your insight. Always appreciate that.
Thanks.
And we will be airing the president's speech tonight right here on ABC News Digital, and you can keep up with the story in real time by downloading the ABC News app and starring the story for exclusive updates on the go. For now, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.